Hello and welcome to May I AI. My name is Alexander Vachevaik and I'm currently enrolled in a Master's in Management Technology.
My name is Mustafa Al-Hayani and I have a master's in informatics with a focus on AI.
We're both part of TUM AI, whose main task is to make AI accessible for everyone. This season is part of the AI Academy. The AI Academy is a series of workshops with different companies hosted by TUM AI at the Technical University of Munich. This podcast can be listened to separately or joined on as an add-on, but it is in no way a prerequisite to join the AI Academy or vice versa. You do not have to join the AI Academy to listen to this podcast. This week's company at the AI Academy is Celonis, a TUM unicorn which concerns itself with process mining. So today we'll try to look at the general idea and the concepts of what process mining is. So Mustafa, give us an outlook. What is that?
So we can look at the idea of processes as basically everything that you do in your day-to-day life could be defined as a certain process, and this process can be further broken down into sub-processes. And basically you can look into these as you going somewhere, or you taking the bus, or you paying with your card. All of these are certain events that constitute different sub-processes that you want to do.
So a company like Celonis, they do exactly that. They look at events, but they do that on a company scale. So they look at what kind of events a company has. So for example, they're selling something, they're getting an invoice, their logistics are doing something, they're moving a package from somewhere to somewhere else. So how do these systems usually look?
Well, we can look at a very simple example and try to relate everything to that. Imagine we're in a hospital. Hospitals have certain rules. For the simplicity of it, let's consider one particular rule in this example, where every doctor who enters a patient room has to wash his hands within the first few seconds of exiting that room. And basically every time a doctor goes into a patient room, they swipe their card to open the door, and this logs an event of doctor goes into the room. And then you can log the same way of the doctor going out. And then basically through some sensors, you can monitor if he entered the bathroom, washed his hands, and went out. Now, this process of going to the patient room, going out, washing your hand is what you want to enforce. So looking at the events of every single doctor in the hospital and raising a flag every time a doctor doesn't wash his hands is a nice way of using this event system.
So what we're trying to learn here from these events that we're having is we're trying to look at the doctors, and if there's some sort of, like, not just doctors, from high level, we're trying to look at the events, and if we're expecting a certain event that isn't happening, we can already kind of try to flag it and be like, hey, something is wrong here. Would that already constitute process mining?
Yes, that would definitely is. So process mining is the process of looking at all of these events being logged by your system and trying to find a certain pattern. We call this pattern a complex event, a series or a pattern of events that explain a certain process that you're looking for or a process that you don't want to happen.
So right now we try to flag events which didn't happen when we expected them to happen. Can we also try to find other patterns in the events?
Well,
Can we, for example, predict something or label maybe the different events? What are the possibilities here?
Well, you can use basically forecasting and predictive AI to be able to look at certain pattern. And let's say I always expect a certain pattern to follow every other pattern. So let's say if I teach my doctors pretty well, then I expect after every time the doctor leaves a certain room, they're definitely going to be in the bathroom washing their hands. And then basically before the doctor goes into the bathroom, I can always tell that he's going to be there in that particular time frame. And if I want to be very thorough about it, I can look at the pattern of every particular individual doctor, and then I can tell you exactly after how many seconds of going out of each room do they go into the bathroom to wash their hands.
So with process mining, we can find patterns. And we just used this very simple example of a doctor in a hospital. What would be some real life examples of what we could do with process mining?
Well, we can also look at algorithmic trading, for example, in financial use cases, where imagine you're looking at the information from every certain company, and you have the stock rising and falling of different companies, and you're looking to see if you should buy or sell your stocks in some company. So every event would be, for every company, there is the value of its stock right now, for example, and then it went up or it went down. And let's say the complex example you're looking for is three particular companies start going down, and then the fourth company you want to buy is starting to go up. And then this would be the complex event you're trying to flag, and then you'd be like, if this happens, I would pay for buying stock. And then you can try to use also what we just explained to try to predict the future by looking at the pattern of the stocks, because we know how in trading, basically, the stock always follows certain patterns. And if you can predict the patterns correctly, you can be able to pay in earlier and then earn more wins.
That's a real interesting example. I also remember you have some personal experience with this. Can you tell us some more about it?
Yeah, so during my bachelor thesis, we worked on the idea of load shedding. And the way it works is that we just talked about this bunch of events happening in your system, right? Now, when you have all of these events passing through, you ought to have like this great load on your system, right? And you want to be able to process everything, but you just can't because data is huge. So what you want to do is you want to be able to drop certain events without being able to jeopardize your complex event. So if I'm looking at events by companies A, B, and C, and then the trivial case would be I would drop any company outside of these, but of course, what if your queue of events only has these three, right? So you want to be able to identify certain patterns, and then, for example, you always see two A's in a row and then a B, and then if I see A and then a B, I know I can drop the first A because it only matters if it comes to A's, and so on and so forth.
That is also a really interesting example. So let's wrap up what we learned today. Can you explain process mining and wrap it up?
So we talked about the idea of process mining, where we have all of these events passing through the system, and these events could be an estimate to every single small detail, but of course it very matters depending on your use case. And we wanted to see how is it useful to keep track of all the events and being able to predict the future or even classify certain events. And we talked about different use cases, and finally one of the ways that it could be causing damage to your system and how you can fix it.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you for listening to May I AI, and stay tuned for the next episode.